Hi, everybody, and welcome to Low Latency Video Streaming with StreamGuys. In this webinar, you'll learn how to deliver live video with 2 seconds latency from the camera to your viewer. And in keeping with today's theme, our webinar won't be that long. So if you have any questions about anything being covered today, don't wait to enter it in the chat window because the question and answer period might just sneak up on you. So let's get started. Since this webinar is about streaming protocols, let's review the common video streaming protocols. Now, even though the technology we'll be talking about today is most often used for video, everything we're discussing applies to audio as well. Most of the video streaming today uses the HLS or MPEG- protocol. As you may already know, these segmented protocols are great because they offer network resiliency for viewers that other protocols just don't have. This resiliency comes from segmentation, which means video content is broken into chunks, then reassembled in the player for a seamless stream. That means a viewer can lose internet access for a few seconds without having any playback issues. But this resiliency does come at a cost to latency. HLS latency is usually between 20 and 60 seconds behind real time, depending on the variables, like the chunk length, number of chunks, and the media player being used. The media player chooses which chunk to begin playback, and this in turn influences latency. Now there's also backhaul protocols like SRT, RTMP, MPEG-TS, and RIST. These are used to send video streams to a CDN, but aren't used for delivery to viewers. And we'll be covering these a bit later in the webinar. If you're broadcasting a live event with feedback from the audience or betting content, 20 to 60 seconds of latency might be unacceptable. So, is there a better way? Absolutely. StreamGuys can provide latency as low as 2 seconds with the SLDP protocol from Nimble Streamer, which allows a seamless interaction between your talent and the audience, as well as a fair betting experience. SLDP uses WebSockets instead of HTTP for delivery. You can encode to StreamGuys via RTMP or SRT protocols. Then we transmux your stream to SLDP for delivery to your viewers. We'll advise you on encoder settings for the lowest latency, primarily setting your keyframe interval as low as possible. If you're not familiar with SRT, it's another protocol that's often used for encoding and backhaul. SRT stands for Secure, Reliable Transport. We always recommend using this protocol if your encoder supports it, because SRT handles packet loss and jitter better than RTMP. SLDP playback is supported in any browser that supports MSE or media source extensions. SLDP works natively in desktop environments as well as Android. There is a mobile SDK that would allow you to build SLDP support into your mobile app. There are also free mobile apps that allow viewers to play any SLDP stream by entering the stream URL into the app. This isn't a branded experience, so the SDK is our recommended route for enterprise clients. Additionally, StreamGuys can always create HLS and SLDP variants of a single video source, so you're not stuck with SLDP only. You can use HLS on mobile and SLDP for desktops. StreamGuys offers an SLDP player that you can embed or link to on your website. Synchronized playback is a very specific feature of SLDP. It allows each viewer to be in the exact same place in the stream. This isn't possible with HLS because viewers have a larger buffer and there is a variation where each player starts the stream. With SLDP, a small amount of buffer is added to achieve synchronized playback, but you can still stay well below 5 seconds of latency and keep all devices synchronized. Synchronized playback could be useful if you have a big screen or outdoor display and want audio streams synced to the video. Or there's a second screen application that needs to be in sync with an ongoing live TV stream on TV. Also, multiple screens in the same room might be showing the same content with a single sound source. And multiple surveillance cameras need to be shown on the same page. We've already mentioned betting streams and interactive streams as great use cases for low latency video. However, there's a lot of other ways low latency streaming can improve your product offering. Live conferences, sports, and news streaming are all areas where latency can be detrimental to the user experience. Sports fans that listen to the radio feed are a great example of how low latency streams can augment the live sports experience. People watching TV, or actually at the ballpark, will listen to the radio announcer because they want some commentary at the live game, or maybe they prefer the radio announcer to the TV announcer. Without low latency streaming, the live internet stream is too far behind the over-the-air radio to be a viable alternative. SLDP can make the online stream a viable alternative to over-the-air audio. SLDP streaming can be measured in SG reports and SG monitor. So you get both real-time and historical analysis. SG reports provides total viewing hours, cumulative audience, stream starts, geolocation, time of day, and more. SG Monitor provides the number of concurrent viewers on each stream over the last 24 hours, week, month, or year. Now, this wouldn't be a Stream Guys webinar if we didn't talk a little about SG Recast, our flagship product for content repurposing. Now, you might be wondering, just how does SG Recast tie in with what we're talking about today? Well, if you wanted to archive any of your live video content as video on demand, SG Recast can automatically create HLS VOD files and add them to RSS feeds. That lets you automate video podcasting or automatically add video on demand content to your SG player. And there's more. You could also create a time-shifted experience for your video stream using our SG Rewind integration. So what's the takeaway from today's webinar? Well, HLS is reliable, but comes with additional latency. When you need low latency video streaming, StreamGuys recommends the SLDP protocol because SLDP achieves latency of 2 seconds or less. This is useful for video conferencing, live sports broadcasting, auctions, security, and many more applications. SLDP can be paired with HLS delivery to reach all devices. Can also be paired with SG Recast to provide a rewindable video stream or an automated video on demand version. See, I told you it's going to be a pretty short webinar today. So if you haven't already written your questions into the chat window, now's the time. And while you're doing that, I will say thank you for spending some of your time with us today. As always, we hope you found this webinar informative. And if you would like more information about what we discussed here today or any of our products and services, please feel free to contact us at sales@streamguys.com or give us a call at the number you see here. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ralph. I'm Tim LaBelle, and our product manager, Robert Minix, will be joining me to answer any questions that anybody writes in. We have a good question here from Todd. Curious if you have recommendations for hardware video encoders. I believe we do. Robert, could you take us through a couple of the encoders that StreamGuys recommends?
Certainly. I believe we have a couple that we include in our encoder brochure. We need to pull that up to get some of the specifics really quick. But I think one of our baseline video encoders that we like to talk about is the Videon VersaStreamer 4K, right, Tim?
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool. And I think that is sort of one of the premier options for it. We certainly have a lot of people that ask us about using other software, like OBS, for example, if they're trying to get away with something that's free. And certainly those options are viable as well. But generally, if you're trying to do true low latency and you want reliability and you're actually trying to keep it all together in one nice package, it's usually better to use hardware encoders like the VersaStreamer or any of the hardware encoders from Haivision, for example, as well. In general, I think that's basically the way to go. If you want specifics on the particular models that we recommend, you can reach out to us. We have a brochure, as I mentioned a bit ago, that had some of those specifics on there, but anything in those families, the Haivision stuff or the Videon stuff, you're pretty much good to go.
And we do like both of those product lines because they offer SRT as an ingest protocol. So that gives us some improved reliability over the public internet versus RTMP. Greg, good question here. Does it cost more to use SLDP versus HLS? From our perspective, it does at large scale, but there's no difference at I'd say medium or lower scale. The reason I say that is HLS can be reflected out and delivered through global CDN. So there's less dedicated infrastructure needed, whereas SLDP is a one-to-one connection between a viewer and a streaming server. So it's a continuous connection, and therefore you do need dedicated infrastructure to support your full audience. So if you expect large bursts, maybe you plan to reach 50,000 people concurrently, you'll need a cluster of SLDP servers deployed, and that is reflected in the costs. David has a good question here. Robert, I'll leave it to you if this can be answered here, should be followed up afterwards. Will complex metadata delay the stream?
I'm not entirely sure what the implications of that might be. In general, there should be no concerns with any of the metadata related to any of the streams, from ingest to actual delivery. Everything is incredibly low latency. The metadata itself, if at all stitched into the stream, shouldn't cause any delays. The only thing I could see causing potentially a delay is if the metadata that you're incorporating is actually requiring you to delay your audio in order to properly create that metadata. Say if you're trying to embed captions, for example, and you have to do some kind of processing before you can actually put that into your stream and send it. That's the only real way that I see a delay occurring. But elsewise, there shouldn't be any issues with metadata causing delay that I can see.
Well, it looks like the questions have slowed down here. I appreciate everybody taking a few minutes today to join us on this webinar. We'll send out the archive shortly, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.